Everyone thinks they know which food causes belly fat. But what if I told you that some of the biggest enemies of a flat stomach are food people eat every single day because they believe they are healthy? Before we begin, there is something really important to understand. No single food magically creates belly fat, and no single food magically burns it away either. What really matters is how certain foods affect your hunger, your fullness, your blood sugar, and ultimately how much you eat throughout the day. That's exactly what today's video is about. We are looking at 7 everyday foods that can quietly make maintaining a lean physique much more difficult. Not because they are bad, but because they make overeating incredibly easy. So let's start with the first food. Let us start with something that almost everyone has eaten at some point in their life: breakfast cereals. Because many breakfast cereals are marketed as a whole grain, fortified with vitamins, even fitness friendly. But when researchers actually study how these types of food affect the body, the results tell a very different story. For example, in a controlled study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, scientists looked at how different breakfast composition affect hunger and calorie intake later in the day. And what they found was very interesting. When people ate breakfast higher in refined carbohydrates and lower in protein, which is very similar to many popular cereals, they experienced less satiety, meaning they felt hungry again much sooner compared to higher protein meals. This means that you eat cereal at 8 AM, for example, and by mid-morning you are already hungry again. Not because of discipline, but because it doesn't keep you full. The problem isn't fat gain directly, it's that it makes overeating much easier without noticing. So it's not about skipping breakfast, it's about choosing one that actually keeps you full. Now let's talk about something that confuses almost everyone: fruit use. Because on the surface it sounds healthy, right? It comes from fruit, it has vitamins, so it should be good for fat loss. But here is where things get interesting. When you turn fruit into juice, you remove one of the most important parts for controlling your body weight: fiber. And without fiber, your body processes the sugar much faster. In fact, research consistently shows that liquid calories have a much weaker effect on satiety compared to solid foods. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that calories consumed in liquid form are significantly less filling than the same calories consumed as solid food. This means the body doesn't compensate properly for liquid calories, often leading to higher total energy intake throughout the day. Think about it like this: eating an orange takes time. You chew it and you feel it in your stomach. But drinking 3 or 4 oranges in a glass, that takes 10 seconds and barely registers as a meal. That's why whole fruit is almost always the better choice. Same nutrients, but with fiber that actually helps control hunger. Let's move on to something most people don't even question: white bread. Toast in the morning, a sandwich at lunch, it's everywhere. But here's the problem: white bread is made from refined flour, which means most of the fiber has been removed during processing. And without fiber, your body digests it extremely fast. Research published in Advances in Nutrition shows that dietary fiber has been shown to increase satiety, but the effect depends on the type of fiber and the food structure. In general, higher fiber foods are associated with greater fullness and lower overall energy intake compared to refined low-fiber carbohydrates. Now, let's talk about something that looks completely harmless but might be one of the easiest ways to gain fat without noticing: sugary drinks. Because here's the problem: when you drink calories, your body doesn't register them the same way it does with solid foods. You can drink 300 or even 500 calories and still feel just as hungry as before. In fact, research published in the International Journal of Obesity shows that liquid sugar intake is strongly associated with increased total energy consumption and weight gain, mainly because it does not trigger the same satiety response as solid foods. Now think about your own daily routine: a soda with lunch, a sweet coffee in the morning, maybe an energy drink in the afternoon. None of these feel like real food, right? But together, they can easily add hundreds of extra calories every single day without you adjusting how much you eat. Now, this one surprised almost everyone because it looks and sounds healthy, but the flavored versions are a completely different story. Here is why. When manufacturers remove fat to make it healthier, they often add sugar or sweeteners to improve the taste. And the result is a product that can contain as much sugar as a dessert. Therefore, that many so-called healthy dairy products can significantly increase added sugar intake, which is linked to higher overall calorie consumption and reduced diet quality. And over time, it can quietly make fat loss much harder than it should be. A right alternative is to choose Greek yogurt and add your own fruit. Let's talk about something almost everyone has at home, not just chips, but all those refined hyper-palatable snacks, cookies, crackers, chocolate bars, packaged pastries. These foods are engineered to combine sugar, fat, and refined flour in a way that maximizes pleasure while minimizing satiety. Scientists often refer to this as hyper-palatable food combinations, where the brain's reward system is strongly activated, making it harder to stop eating even when you are full. Research published in Obesity has identified so-called hyper-palatable foods, products engineered with specific combinations of fat, sugar, and salt that significantly increase rewards-driven eating and make it easier to override natural fullness signals. Think about that. You are not eating because you are hungry. You are eating because the food is designed to keep you going back for more. And that's the real issue. You just keep reaching for more without realizing it. And that's exactly how small snacks turn into unnecessary daily overeating. And here we are, the #1 food group quietly destroying your flat stomach, ultra-processed foods. And I know, this sounds broad, but that's exactly the point, because this isn't just one food, it's an entire category that dominates modern diets. Packaged snacks, frozen meals, pastries, sugary breakfast foods, fast food, even some products that look healthy on the front level. Ultra-processed foods are built to hit what scientists call the bliss point, the perfect combination of salt, fat, and crunch that makes your brain want more, even when you are already full. There is a famous controlled study published in Cell Metabolism, where participants were given 2 different diets, one made of ultra-processed foods and one made of minimally processed foods. Here is the key detail. Both diets had the same amount of calories, protein, fat, fiber, absolutely everything. So in theory, the results should have been the same, but they weren't. When people ate the ultra-processed diets, they naturally consumed around 500 extra calories per day, of course without being told to. Think about that. They didn't try to overeat, they were just given different types of food. Then, if 2 diets with the same nutrients can lead to completely different calorie intake, then the type of food you eat matters just as much as the calories themselves. Because if most of your diet comes from ultra-processed foods, your body is constantly being pushed toward eating more than it needs. And that's the hidden problem. Not a lack of willpower, but an environment that makes overeating almost automatic. So after everything we've seen today, it's easy to get the wrong idea. That fat loss is about cutting specific foods, following strict rules, or being perfect every single day. But that's not how it works. No single food makes or breaks a flat stomach. What matters is the overall pattern of your diet, how often you eat food that keep you full, supports your energy, or make you overeat without realizing it. When you zoom out, it's not about good or bad foods. It's about how they affect your ability to stay in balance. And once you understand that, nutrition stops feeling like a battle and becomes something you can actually control. Because the goal was never perfection. It was awareness and consistency. Because remember, small changes, constantly applied, that's how real results happen. If you are new here, Applied Human Lab is where science meets real results. Because most people don't lack effort, they lack the right information. So if you want to stop guessing and start understanding, make sure you subscribe and stick around for the next videos. See you soon.